feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. We come to you every week, and you can catch a replay of all of our broadcasts at shrimptankpodcast.com or download us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. You can hear from the some 125 entrepreneurs that we've interviewed in and around the city of Atlanta, the state of Georgia, and across the country. As you know, we interviewed Tony Horton a few weeks ago. You ought to check that episode out. And today, we're joined by our guest I'll bring in just in a minute, Brian Borngesser, who is the co-founder of the Gate City Brewing Company, an exploding brewery in downtown historic Roswell, something that you ought to go down to at some point. Try the beer, check it out. Historic Roswell has been an amazing example of just the cities outside of Atlanta that are growing like crazy. Of course, we got on our co-host, Chris Hanks, who's the executive director and founder of the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship. And we have on Clint today, who's a graduate of Kennesaw State and the winner of the KSU 100. His tent and rental company has done amazing. Somebody that you ought to check out as a rising entrepreneur here in the city of Atlanta. That being said, we talked about a lot of stuff on the Shrimp Tank today, and one of the things we talked about in the first segment I thought was interesting and will be interesting for people watching the post-show wrap-up is this idea of capitalization. Like, how much money do I need to start my company? And what experience did you have with that, starting the brewing company, and what advice would you give to fellow entrepreneurs that are watching the post-show wrap-up?
You need a lot more than you think you need.
Oh, yeah.
It was interesting because in our business plan, we pretty much had everything down to the penny on what the equipment was going to cost. And we were actually really impressed with ourselves about how close we were to that number. What we vastly missed on was the operational expenses. And that's where we could have gotten in trouble if we were going to have a big issue. That's where it would have been. I think that if you're looking at starting a business, especially if it's going to be something that's production equipment oriented, you're going to need deep pockets for that because the equipment's expensive, the maintenance is expensive, the installation is expensive, and the operation of that equipment is going to be expensive as well. And you need as much cash as you can possibly get your hands on in order to operate that venture.
So there was a lot of great content on the show that we talked about the specifics of running the business and some advice for entrepreneurs. One thing that didn't come up is differentiation. You know, in a business like that where it's so crowded, what would you recommend as far as, like, is there any advice for differentiation or anything that you did that somebody can learn from who's watching this?
When we started Gate City, we wanted to make sure that we focused on an experience. We brew we're 3 years old, and we've brewed 98 different beers put on our taproom wall. And that was part of our business model where we wanted to put a ton of different beers out there that people might not be aware of. We have Dunkelweisses, which is a German Munich lager. We've got beers that are brewed with smoked malts that almost taste like putting your mouth into a barbecue grill. So there's a lot of things out there that we wanted to put out to give people an experience of beers that they weren't accustomed to. Now, we also wanted to have an experience in our tap room, and we've built our tap room out, which is the flagship of our brewery. I feel comfortable saying that. To have an experience where in downtown Roswell, where it can be kind of stuffy, it can be a little hoity-toity, we wanted a place where you could have shorts and flip-flops on a Saturday, bring the kids and your dog and kind of hang out and feel comfortable. And our space allows our customers to do that. And I think as breweries pop up and as more and more do come out, you are going to see everybody with their own little fingerprint, their own little model of what they're trying to accomplish. And it's very fascinating to see how everyone does it. You can look at it and just say, okay, a lot of these are similar, but if you're paying close attention to it, you can tell these little nuances that everybody kind of focuses on that is really cool to see business to business.
What kind of advice do you have for the guys that are at home brewing now, the next generation coming up, starting the new breweries, or thinking about starting a new brewery?
The great thing now are the resources that everyone has at their fingertips. Whether it be the Brewers Association, you can buy a pretty cheap initial membership for them. I think it's $100 a year, and it gives you access to all of their industry data, production data, with pretty much any brewery that that submits their data for the year. They send a survey out, and all production breweries, the majority of them do complete that data and send it back in. Plus, you've got all, with the internet, there's so many resources out there, whether it be blogs, web posts, what would you call them?
Vlogs?
I guess.
Video blogs?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Vlogs, we
Now
call
there's
them.
people doing podcasts on it too. There's just so many resources that are out there.
Isn't there like the Beer City guys here or something in
Yeah,
Atlanta?
Beer Talk Radio.
Beer
guys.
Talk Radio
Yeah.
is what it is. Yeah, that's right.
But what's also interesting is you have professionals, whether they be on the legal side, whether they be CPAs, that are actually out there trying to court these home brewers and putting on workshops that they can then go. And we hosted one at the brewery about 3 months ago that I think it's on the internet somewhere. But it was a panel of 4 or 5 owners and Nancy Palmer, who's the head of our Georgia Craft Brewers Guild. We are all sitting across the table and just answering questions about what the issues that we hit on and had to address. So there's so many resources out there, and I would just tell everyone to hit as many things as you possibly can online. Work on your recipes. It's getting very, very, very cutthroat out there, and mediocre beer is not going to make it. You got to have some really good liquid that's going out there to get people interested in you, and work on what your identity is going to be, because that's extremely important.
What's the number one selling beer at Gate City right now?
So out in market, our Copperhead Amber is our number one in draft, which is at bars and restaurants. And then in the tap room, it depends. We have a Pilsner that's really popular, but we also have our New England IPA series. That
New England IPA.
Anytime we put those things on, they just fly. And those are your kind of hazy IPA styles that you've probably heard of. Real fruity, juicy, not very much bittering to it, but just very floral and citrusy.
And if you were not going to drink a beer at Gate City, do you have a favorite beer across the country from a craft brewery out there that you say, this is a pretty darn good beer?
I love sour beers, and still to this day, Cascade Brewing out of Portland, Oregon,
Ridiculous.
Is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane.
Well, there you have it from the beer expert here. So how can folks who are watching the post-show wrap-up today, if they want to come down and do a flight at Gate City, or they want to have an event for their company, how can they get in touch with you, your company, learn more about what you guys are doing there?
Come see us. We're open 7 days a week in the tap room. We're in the middle of downtown Roswell, 43 Magnolia Street. Just Google it. You can send me an email at brian@gatecitybrewingco.com or call my cell at 404-579-5210.
And I'll tell you what, since we're doing the post-show wrap-up today and I'm in a beer-giving mood, if you email me at ted@shrimptankpodcast.com and just give me a good question that you want to ask one of our entrepreneurs on one of our shows, I will buy you a flight at Gate City for the first 3 people that send in a ted@shrimptankpodcast.com. And for your entrepreneurs that are out there, if you think about this, just like doing beer, this is all about getting the right recipe, right? Which is you have to get capitalized. We talked about that with Brian today. You have to figure out how to hire the right people and get them on the bus. You have to figure out how to differentiate. You have to get a strategic plan for your business. And if you build the right recipe, you ultimately create a great product in your business. And that's the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.